Me te tahi toki au ki te tautoko ngā mihi I mihia no rea I ngā pai e rua, tēnā koutou, I ngā mana, I ngā reo, I ngā karanga waka, nau mai hara mai ki tēnei marae o Ngāti Awa, tēnei karea tākua. Te kumihana whānau, Beth, koutou mā, tēnā koutou, nau mai, hara mai. There are three things I've learnt since being a father. I'm not half as smart as I thought I was. Dad, why is the sky blue? Dad, how big is the sun? Dad, where do babies come from? Ask your mother. Secondly, kids are a great leveller. I carry the suitably grand title of Chief Executive of Te Rūnanga o Ngāti Awa. There are 20,000 members of Ngāti Awa. We've got a massive asset base. I do all sorts of interesting and important things during the day. When I get home, I'm the fifth most important person in my house after the dog. So the kids are a great leveller. And I guess the third thing, kids are much more insightful than we think. They pick up on things, they understand the simple things, and they can ask the difficult questions. So as parents, we've got to be able to empower ourselves to strengthen those attributes in kids. So those are three things I've learnt since being a parent. The reason why I was a bit reluctant to come today is I'm actually Chief Executive for the next 4 hours before heading off to China and doing something completely different. So I wasn't quite sure of the timing of my flights and things. It wasn't that I didn't want to speak. So I thought what I would do in my last hours and my last official engagement as Chief Executive of Te Rūnanga o Ngāti Awa is to provide two views. Provide a bit of an overview from a Ngāti Awa perspective, from an iwi Rūnanga perspective on strengthening our whānau, on parenting education, and then provide a couple of personal insights into that. I think there are, when I saw the kaupapa of the hui, parenting education, it took me a while to get my head around. Are we talking about teaching parents or parents learning? And I think the kōrero that I'm going to talk about today is about empowerment, about people, parents empowering themselves to be better parents, therefore creating hopefully stronger whānau. But a little bit about Ngāti Awa, ko wai mātou. I've got a few statistics, and I promise not to bore you too much, and I said I wasn't going to do a PowerPoint, so normally these things would just stick on a PowerPoint. But anyway, there are about 20,000 registered members in Ngāti Awa. As of last census, about 81% of us live in an urban area. Urban area is anything bigger than 1,000 people, so it's not really urban in a real sense. About 50% of those live in a very large urban, so anything greater than 30,000 people. So over half our people do not live here. About a third of Ngāti Awa live in the rohe, and that's about it. About another third in the wider Bay of Plenty, another third in all other places in the country. So we are no longer bound by geography, and that really reinforces the importance of being bound by something else, bound by whakapapa, bound by our culture, bound by our reo, bound by something other than living closely together, because the reality is we are getting further and further apart. 36% of us are under the age of 15, 24% of us are under 29, so more than half of us are under the age of 30. Now I don't know about you, but my decision-making processes prior to 30 were not that robust. I tended to do things at the drop of a hat and make decisions. But the reality is, for most of us, that's where we are living. And so when I look around today, ko wai rātou, kei hea rātou. Where are those 60% of us? How do we reach them? How do we engage them? Because they are our whānau, and they are the parents of the future. And if they're not engaged, then we have a real problem. I did try to set out not to be too deficit focused in this kōrero. I want to really focus on the positive. It's very easy to slip into the negatives, about how bad our whānau are and how drugs and alcohol and violence, but we're going to focus on the positive today. Our median age is 22. The median age of the population is about 30 something, 34, 36. We are about 10 years younger than the rest of the population. Policy is being created in Wellington for the median. Policy has been created for the 30-something-year-old general population. Policy has not been created for the 22-year-old Māori or the 15-year-old Māori. And that's an issue for us. Interestingly though, this is one that I was quite surprised with, 77% of us live in a one-family household. Again, I think if you go back some time, that would have been much lower. So we're tending to group ourselves in the Western nuclear family. We're not living as extended whānau groups. And that's challenging us, that's challenging our culture. Who looks after the kids when there's a tangi and the parents have to go to the marae? The kids go to the marae. Who looks after the kids when the parents are sick? You know, those family traditions, those family connections are breaking down. 32% of us, of our kids live in a 32% of us live in a one-parent family. Okay? And that's the pressure that goes on single parents. And here's another one, just around. Only 50% of our households are connected to the internet. If we're living further apart, if technology is becoming a human right, a basic human right, then the only easy way of connecting, Skypes, the internet, email, only 50% of our households are connecting through that. So already we're reinforcing ourselves as a technological underclass and worsening the ability of our families to reach out to each other. Okay, so what do we do about it? Well, I've got 3 ideas. I'm going to play a video of Ngāti Awa soon because Ngāti Awa say things much better than I say things. But here are 3 things that I think we can do. I'm going to give you 1 deficit-based one and 2 positive ones. First of all, most of our boards, our iwi structures, have some criteria that you must meet in order to be a board member. You can't be bankrupt, you have to be of sound mind, although I'm not sure if many of our board members that really applies. But anyway, there's a whole lot of things you can't be if you want to stand. I think our boards have to take a zero tolerance approach to violence in the family. If you are in that space, you need help, but you shouldn't be able to participate in the workings of our iwi boards until you've got that help. So that's my only deficit-based one, but I think it's both a reaching out and a zero tolerance statement. They need help. You cannot participate in our boards if you are convicted of that sort of crime. But a much more positive one, and something I think I'd like the Commission to think about. We rely on the system. We rely on the education system. We rely on the health system. We rely on the welfare system. We rely, sort of, on the justice system. Systems, by their nature, are not designed to take account of individuals. They are not there to help you as an individual. They are there to create a process by which the majority of the people can get through that. And if the majority of the people are not Māori and are 36, what does that mean for the rest of us? That means the system is not designed for us. So I think this over-reliance on the system is causing some of the issues that we've got as a culture. We're relying on somebody else to make our decisions for us, so we need to change that. We rely on the system to take care of our kids. We rely on the schooling system to take them from the age of 2, 3, 5, through to 16, 17, 18, and give them a good education and a start in life. Well, clearly that's not happening. The system's not designed to allow tracking of our kids, to allow a progress report on an annual basis of our kids. There are something like 10,000 children and young people in Ngāti Awa under the age of about 18. It is possible for Ngāti Awa to track every single one of those year by year. It would be possible. It's a matter of a number of people employed to liaise with whānau, to build a system where the whānau are reporting school reports, tracking immunisations, tracking health, and creating a database to hold the system to account. To save the system, we're tracking this cohort, this group of 5-year-olds who were born in 2005, who are now 7. We've tracked them. Half of them have never been to a dentist. Half of them are are already struggling with learning difficulties. So what do we need to do about that? If we could do that, 10,000 people, it's not hard to create something. So iwi by iwi, we could track the kids, the young people, as they work their way through the system, which would allow us greater ability to interact with the system, to interrupt the system, to engage with the whānau to help them work their way through that process. It's sort of the whānau water idea, but starting much earlier. So you've all seen those TV programs, 7 Up, where they take a group of kids born and they watch them through to the age of 7 and they track their development paths, and they watch them through the age of 14 and they track their development paths. So we won't just watch them, we want to engage. We want to be able to track. There's a very alarming statistic that I heard recently that the Ministry of Education is talking about. If we don't catch our Māori boys by the age of about 8 to 10, lose them. 8 to 10. So there's the third big idea sort of revolves around that, our Māori boys. So again, tāne Māori, kei whia koutou. I look around the room, conspicuous in their absence. Where are our Māori men? How do we engage them? How do we bring them into this discussion? What are the triggers that engage our Māori men? Because if they're not involved, then what's the process for bringing our kids through that with strong role models? In some cases, we've got the grandparents to provide that strong role model, the uncles, older brothers, whoever they are, that's missing in a lot of cases. So I think, I think we should have a rā whānau each year, and the purpose of that is Father and Children Day, and they go and do, go to sport or go to an event, and events around the country celebrating Māori men and their kids. So I think that's something maybe the Commission can pick up as well. Because Māori men are struggling, high rates of depression and suicide, and struggling to understand the role that they play. So I think we need to give them some leads. So hopefully all those things lead to a strengthening of our whānau. There are ways to strengthen the individual bits of our whānau. But as parents, as whānau members, we need to strengthen ourselves. We need to empower ourselves. We need to strengthen ourselves. We need to strengthen our own identities. We need to understand who we are, where we come from. Strong identity. If you know who you are, and where you're from, that strong identity will help. There's a growing urban underclass of Māori youth who look Māori, sound Māori, but don't know who they are, where they're from. They're scared to go into marae because they look Māori and they sound Māori, but they don't know anything about it. So it's an alien place, more alien in fact than for most Pākehā, and that's a challenge. So we need to strengthen our identity. We need to strengthen our resources, the assets of our whānau, not just money, but knowledge, community. Strengthen ourselves and our resources so we're able to spend time identifying it, working out who we are and celebrating that. We need to strengthen our well-being. We need to get healthier. We need to improve the rates of our smoking cessation and weight loss and diabetes. So whānau need to be healthy before they can be wealthy, and they need to be wealthy and healthy and identify themselves as Māori. And finally need to stand up and celebrate, which is why we like this are important. Celebrate the positive aspects of being Māori and being Māori whānau. So I just sort of lead into that because just before I finish, Ngāti Awa has recently completed a vision for 2050. And part of the vision is that tūranga waiwai, knowing who we are, knowing where we're from. Mauri ora, having the resources available, the know-how, the education and knowledge to be able to support ourselves. Toi ora, being healthy individuals, healthy whānau. And finally, tūpakari, standing up, leadership, strength. And so I'd just like to close my kōrero by leaving the final few minutes to Ngāti Awa to talk.